What? Bro, it's been a year. Where have you been? Like, my dude, what is going on? What is that? My dude, no, what is that? No, you can't just stop it. No, you can't. No, my dude, no. My man, you can't just test. 大変申し訳ございませんでした。Go and record a fucking video. Yay! Ugh. Okay, I'm back. Hold on, it's the middle of summer. I'm not doing a video in a suit. Give me a second. That is way better. I don't think I've worn a suit in about 3 years. And I've got coffee. Thanks, Genga. You the one. Yeah.
One eternity later.
The borders are slowly easing in Japan, meaning people are gradually being able to come in for work-related things. And for those who are coming to Japan to live and work here, eventually you're gonna have to move house. And let me tell you, you're not ready. The average rent in Tokyo is around $600 for 1R or 1-room apartment to around $4,000 for a 4LDK, which is a 4-bedroom living, kitchen room, dining room type thing. A lot of people freak out when they see the average rent price of moving to Tokyo. However, don't stress, there are a lot of tips and tricks to moving in Japan to save you a lot of money. I am an excellent test case. I live 1 minute from the station. My apartment cost, drumroll, drumrolls, $400 a month. What I actually pay in yen is about 40,000 yen a month. Pretty cheap. How did it become so cheap while being so close to the station? Well, that's tip 1. Before you go to any real estate agent, do your own research. Go online and check some of the popular Japanese real estate apps. Search for the apps, see what kind of apartments are there, the average rent of such, and when you go to the real estate agent, tell them exactly what you're looking for. More importantly, don't settle for less. Before I found this amazing location, I was shown 3 other apartments. The first had none of the features I wanted. It was far from the station, way too expensive, had no kitchen. The second, pretty much the same thing, only the second one was even further from the station and even more expensive. This isn't because the real estate agent didn't know where to find a good apartment. Of course they did. But they have to try to sell the most difficult apartments first. And what better target than a random foreigner who seems to know no better about the real estate market in Japan. Tip number 2 for finding an amazing house in Tokyo is to avoid the peak. Peak moving season in Japan is late February until late April. Why is this peak season? Well, this is the time when all the graduations occur, people are moving jobs, so a lot of movement is happening during this period of time. So, of course, landlords don't have any need to sit at the negotiating table. They don't have to. If you don't take the apartment for the rates they're offering, someone else will come along a day later. If you have no choice but to move during peak season, the only advice I can give you is avoid the super peak season. The super peak season is late March till early April. During this season, literally everyone is trying to move house. If you can, wait a little bit longer and move just after that. If you have successfully avoided the peak season, you can try your hand at this third piece of advice, which is negotiations. Reikin is absolutely horrendous. And in negotiations, it should be the first thing you go after. This payment doesn't serve any purpose. Its only purpose is to line the pockets of the landlords. Reikin literally translates to thank you money, so Lord knows how it became key money, but in English, that's what it's become. Weirdly enough, there's actually a completely separate fee for lock changing. While this may be an outdated tradition, lots of places still try and force key money on their tenants. It's mostly because it's an easy way to make a couple months extra. Now, this payment isn't just $100 or $200. Sometimes it's 1, 2, even 3 months of rent up front. Now, I found a place like this, it's about $400. Now think about that, 3 months of rent on a place that's $700. Someone do the math. $2,100 as a present? Thank you? fuck off. There are actually a lot of places that have stopped doing key money. These are mostly like places that cater to foreign tenants, some shared houses won't do key money. The general problem is a lot of these older, cheaper places are still owned by older landlords, and those landlords do like their key money. When it comes down to it, once again, it is just free money. In this apartment, I didn't have to pay key money because I was off peak season and I managed to get in at a good time, so there was no key money needed. But if this was peak season, I was told that most definitely I would be made to pay key money. Once again, during peak season, you cannot negotiate this down. You are stuck in a situation where whatever the landlord asks for, you have to pay. While negotiating is very essential in these situations, one other thing is pretty dang essential, and that's managing your expectations. If you want a nice house in the middle of Tokyo, separate bath, separate kitchen, separate toilet, big old balcony, 2 minutes from the station, you're not gonna get that for under $800 a month. It's about managing your expectations. The apartment I'm in now is pretty dang cheap. And the reason it's cheap, even though the kitchen and the living room are separate, is because it has a unit bath. I did not want a unit bath in this dang, I hate unit bath. This is a unit bath. This is what it is. A unit bath is basically the bathroom and the toilet are in the exact same room. It's basically a big wet room. I fucking hate it. All your stuff gets wet, everything gets moldy, it has terrible ventilation. It is awful. Why did I choose to live in this house even though it has a unit bath? Because it has a big old kitchen, the living room is separate, it's 1 minute from the station. When it comes down to it, you take the pros with the cons and you balance what you want and what you're willing to sacrifice to get an overall cheaper apartment. So it very much comes down to how much are you willing to spend and how much are you willing to sacrifice so you can save in the long run. Manage your expectations. The next thing to discuss is the real key money, the real reikin, the lock changing fee. Now, the lock changing fee isn't as disgusting as reikin, maybe around 200, 300 bucks perhaps, even some of 100 bucks. I've seen some that have 5,000. But when it comes to negotiating, you can negotiate that completely off and just say you'd like the exact same keys that everyone else has been using. I know what you're thinking. Whoa there, Jordan. Fucking whoa there. Isn't that bloody dangerous? What if the tenant before me still has his keys? Well, let me tell you, he'd get a hefty fine. Not returning the keys once you've moved out of the apartment involves a massive fine. Thousands of dollarinos coming your way. Most people aren't going to incur those fines to hold the key. The other question I've always had is, do they actually change the locks? My key looks like it's been around since the fucking Showa era. The lock on my door is just a big metal thing you flick up and down. Like, this doesn't seem like it gets changed very often at all. I'm not calling anyone out. I'm not saying things are or not being changed. But what I am saying is I negotiated that right off my contract. I did not want to be paying for that fee, and I'm glad I didn't. Because in seeing my neighbor's keys, the guys downstairs, my friend's keys, no one's keys look new. Either way, this is a fee you can definitely negotiate off your final price when it comes to moving house in Japan. My next advice is easy, very straightforward. Guys, take your damn time. Shop around, look around, see what apartments are out there. You don't have to pay real estate agents any fees until the final contract is signed. Looking is free. You can call any real estate agent, book an appointment, and shop around and see what's there. This is important. This is something I didn't know until coming to Japan and actually moving house. Although it's the exact same company, the companies have kind of cut up different cities and towns and regions into different areas, and they only deal with the regions they've been given. If you went to an Eiburu branch somewhere in Shinjuku, they might be able to tell you what apartments are available in this section of Shinjuku, but they would have no idea what's available in that section of Shinjuku. And that's because the regions are cut up and given to different real estate agencies. Shopping around is important to find the perfect house for you. But when it comes to shopping around, don't just look in the big agencies. Check some of the smaller local agencies as well. They're probably more approachable, they're easier to talk to, and also they'll know the area a little better than the big companies that have just moved in. If you have a mom and pop real estate agent that's been selling houses since the Showa era, that's the place to maybe start looking. They're gonna know the best houses, the best areas, the best places to live. Even if you're just going there, just to have a gander, see what houses are in the area, you should definitely do it. It's really important to know the makeup of the area you wanna live in before you move there. So you followed my advice. You got that key money slashed down to zero. You looked for an apartment off peak season. You got the lock changing fee smashed out of the accord. You sacrificed some of the things you wanted, but it's okay because you're only a minute from the station. Now it's time. You're sitting down in the agency, ready to sign the contract. And of course, it happens. Commission. When it comes down to it, commission is very much between you and the real estate agency. Now, commission can be anywhere between 10 to 100% of a month's rent. So depending on how expensive your rent is, can really change how much commission the agency takes. Now, if your rent, like me, is pretty cheap, paying 100% commission on top of that isn't going to be much. But when it comes down to it, once again, it all depends on how much the agency has done for you during this process. If you, like me, found the apartment yourself, scoped it out, and you only really needed the agency to take you there, maybe talk to the landlord, sign on the dotted line, maybe print out some papers, perhaps get the agency fee knocked down a little bit. When it came down to it, the commission I paid to my agency was about 1/4 of my rent, so it's pretty reasonable. If you went to a real estate agency having no idea where to go, what to do, where to live, and they really went above and beyond to find you a nice apartment, and at the end of the day, when it came to the contract signing, you said, fuck you, I only want to pay $3. It's kind of a dick move. And I think in those situations, there will be some pretty tough negotiations. When it comes down to it, everyone needs to get paid. And if you feel like they've done a good job, you've got to pay them the commission they deserve. As I'm generous, I shall leave you with one more tip. Although people want to live in the center of Tokyo, people have an idea of what they believe their life in Tokyo to be. When it comes down to it, a lot of people who work in Tokyo don't actually live in Tokyo. They live in Kanagawa, Saitama, Chiba, regions outside of Tokyo. Houses in Tokyo are notoriously tiny, with lots of people making videos about how tiny these apartments are. When it comes down to it, if you want a bigger apartment, more bang for your buck, perhaps it's the case of leaving Tokyo to one of the outside regions. Remember, Tokyo is fucking massive. This is Tokyo. This is also Tokyo. This is also Tokyo. Tokyo is damn huge. And in order to find the best apartment for you, it's going to be a case of really doing the legwork and searching to find where you want to live. There we have it. Those are some tips and tricks for living in Tokyo. Where would you guys want to live in Tokyo if money was no option? Let me know in the comments down below. Until then, I'm going to get back to editing. I have a shit ton of things still to edit. Until then, I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye. I promise I'll make it soon. Sorry, I'm not gonna leave for a year, I promise. Don't worry about it. I got a living house in Japan. Why did I say that so weirdly? What the fuck's wrong with me?